Hey guys, it's Rift here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Harman Smith making yet another video about the Steam Deck, because honestly, this device just lives rent-free in this guy's head. Titled, "The Steam Deck Fanboys Play Victim After Spending Years Harassing Nintendo Owners," which is a little ironic coming from a guy who openly shills for Nintendo, and has spent years making videos claiming that people who own Steam Decks are subhuman.
Steam Deck fans are playing the victim.
Are we playing victim, or do you just think we care way more than what we actually do?
After like 3 years!
What the fuck happened to your mic quality? More to the point, what happened to your video quality? Like it's focusing in and out on your face like a fucking prostitute.
Of whining about Nintendo constantly, pretending as if the Steam Deck was this huge cultural phenomenon, bigger than the iPhone.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who claims the Steam Deck is bigger than the iPhone. Like, I'm fairly certain you pulled that from Where the Sun Don't Shine.
You know, you had people saying that the Steam Deck made Nintendo consoles obsolete, and they were constantly promoting piracy on the platform.
I mean, to an extent, you could say that's true. I mean, the Steam Deck was better than the original Switch in every single way, and that also includes the OLED, which came out in 2019. The Steam Deck was just a way better product in every single way, and it could play Switch games, which was the Switch hardware's biggest selling point. Like, yes, the Nintendo Switch was still desirable and the hardware itself was cheaper than the Steam Deck, but the point is that the Steam Deck was a better product than the Switch. It's also funny that in 2025 you're gonna keep making the argument that emulation is piracy, when Nintendo themselves literally came out and said that emulation is legal.
Right, piracy on the console, I should say, you know.
The Steam Deck isn't a console, it's a portable gaming PC.
It was such one of the most forced, ridiculous things we've ever seen on YouTube, right?
I mean, what's forced and ridiculous about it? It's a newer piece of hardware that was better than an old piece of hardware. Like, that's generally how things work in the gaming industry. Something being forced and ridiculous would be if someone said, oh, I don't know, that the Nintendo Switch had better graphics than a gaming PC. I wonder who said that.
Steam Deck was never going to take off, it was never going to become successful, it was never popular.
Well, the Steam Deck has sold 4 million units and makes up a large percentage of the PC handheld market. People are openly coming out saying that yes, they prefer the Steam Deck to the Switch 1 and even the Switch 2 in some cases. And you of all people, Mr. Harman Smith, can't stop talking about the Steam Deck, so evidently it clearly was a bit of a cultural phenomenon.
And yet, for like a good long while there, people seriously thought this thing was going to eclipse the Switch in relevance.
I mean, to an extent, that's true. I mean, who really talks about the Nintendo Switch these days, especially with the release of the Switch 2? Not as many people talk about the Switch 1 anymore, but plenty of people are talking about the Switch 2 and also the Steam Deck. Like, yeah, if you thought that the Steam Deck was gonna sell better than the Switch, or if you thought that the Steam Deck was gonna put Nintendo out of business like Harman Smith claims, then yeah, you're a fucking idiot, but that's not what people are talking about.
See, and of course, that never happened. And now that we have the Switch 2, which has already outperformed the Steam Deck, by the way.
In sales and specs, and literally nothing else.
Now that we have the Switch 2, the Steam Deck is completely obsolete.
Are you sure about that? Because the last time I checked, the Steam Deck doesn't require you to pay to play your own games online. It has more games, it has cheaper games, it has way more Nintendo games than the Switch 2 because of emulation, it has fan games and mod support, and it also has a way larger amount of storage space for really not that much more money. There are still many reasons to get a Steam Deck, shut the fuck up. You want to talk about an obsolete platform? Look no further than the Switch 1. The OLED was better than it in every way, and now the Switch 2 has basically made it redundant.
It's not obsolete, you know. The thing didn't even last 3 years.
I mean, it did, and it currently is doing so.
It sold less than the Wii U.
It's also objectively better than the Wii U in every way. Friendly reminder that once again, just because something sells really well, it doesn't make it better than another product.
You know, it was a complete train wreck. And now,
if it's a train wreck, then what does it make the original Switch? Because it's better than it in every single way, and it still has a vast amount of W's over the Switch 2, which came out 3 years after the Steam Deck. If this is a train wreck by your own admission, then what the fuck does that make the current gen of Nintendo?
now that Nintendo fans are pointing and laughing at Steam Deck fans, for hyping up a dead platform.
Technically, the Steam Deck is not its own platform. It's one small subdivision of PC gaming. And if you want to say that PC gaming is dead, then you're a fucking half-wit. And also, if you want to imply that Steam is dead, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Now they're playing victim. Oh, Nintendo fans are just obsessed!
I mean, yeah, you sound fucking psychotic when you peek your microphone and sound like a fucking anime antagonist.
You know, like, I've been seeing a lot of, PC people, like, making these claims that, like, oh, Nintendo fans, they're obsessed with Steam Deck. Like, they make fun of us constantly, and, like...
I mean, you are obsessed with the Steam Deck. You've made God knows how many videos on the Steam Deck, and yes, you do make fun of PC gamers in a very pathetic way. And because there's some moron in the comment section going, oh, you do exactly the same thing to Switch gamers. Yeah, I make fun of fanboys. This guy makes fun of people for just being on PC. We are not the same.
They really don't. Are they really going to try and pretend that they weren't the problem, you know?
How exactly are Steam Deck owners and by extension PC gamers, like, how are we the problem for pointing out that another platform can give you a better experience for playing Nintendo games than the actual Nintendo platform? Like, that sounds like we're being pro-consumer and trying to help people out. Like, that's not us being a problem.
Like, are they really gonna act as if you can't go back through, like, the past 3 years of Harman Smith content and see me, kind of expose these people and kind of talk about how ridiculous they were?
Just because you cope and deny true facts and also claim that emulation is piracy, just because you've been doing that for the last 3 years doesn't make you any more of an idiot. Especially because people have been responding to you for years and disproving all of the bullshit that you talk about. Also, just casually admitting that you're addicted to the Steam Deck because, by your own admission, you've spent years whining about it.
Not only like with the Switch 2 situation, but even when the Switch 1.
Friendly reminder that you can edit the pauses out of your YouTube videos. I mean, you should know this. You've been doing YouTube for longer than I have, and you're still not any better at it. Nintendo dudes, this guy is not your champion. Like, I would take Cynthia over this guy any day of the week. In more ways than one.
Was still in the height of its relevancy. Steam Deck fans were trying to say that, like, Steam Deck is better. Like,
by all intents and purposes, the Steam Deck is a better system than the Switch 1. It played games at a better resolution and a better frame rate. It had more games, it had cheaper games, it had more Nintendo games. It had way better backwards compatibility due to emulation, it had mod support, it had better storage, free online gaming, and so much more besides that. The only thing that the Switch 1 did better than the Steam Deck is sales, but again, if sales is the only W you have, do you really have anything to brag about at all?
It was, like, embarrassing and unbelievably cringe.
Describe Harman Smith's YouTube channel in one sentence or less.
It was the gaming equivalent of, like, the brony community.
For those of you in the back who had no idea what Harman Smith just said, he unironically compared PC gamers who like the Steam Deck to grown-ass men who like My Little Pony. I'm not gonna elaborate on how stupid that was. Also, a little self-awareness would be great since you're a grown-ass man simping for a device that plays games aimed for kids.
Okay, like, oh man, like, our community likes
Today, Junior.
Sexualizing horses made for little girls. We're big cloppers, so that means everyone should be a clopper. Like, look at this. Look at, like, how many, like, YouTube views I get. Like, being a clopper is normal. Like, that's the mentality of the Steam Deck fan.
You may as well have just called Steam Deck gamers pedophiles based on how stupid that analogy was. Also, it's a little concerning that you know what these terms mean, considering I had to Google what they meant because I've never heard of them before. Kinda makes me think you were a part of that community, my guy.
Because they don't have any degree of normalcy. They don't have any games. Like,
we have all of the games that you do, plus a hell of a lot more games, both Nintendo and otherwise. If we have no games, you have negative games at this point.
They don't really use their hardware. Their hardware isn't really that good, honestly.
If the Steam Deck's hardware isn't that good, that must make the Nintendo Switch is fucking prehistoric, considering the Steam Deck is better than it. And hilariously enough, despite releasing this month, the Nintendo Switch 2 isn't even the most powerful gaming handheld on the market, so really, what does that make the Switch's specs?
Right, compared to the Switch, it's like kind of embarrassing.
The Nintendo Switch in handheld mode plays games at 720p 30 FPS. The Steam Deck in handheld mode plays games at 800p 60 FPS. They are not the same.
Like the Switch's price point is lower.
The Switch itself is cheaper than the Steam Deck, but every single other thing about the Switch is more expensive. You have to pay to play your games online, which is something you don't have to do on the Steam Deck. Games are generally more expensive on the Switch, and the Steam Deck generally has way better sales.
Like, there is fundamentally no, like, advantage to owning a Steam Deck. Like,
other than literally every single aspect about the device, you mean? Since literally every single thing about the Steam Deck is better than the Switch? You saying, oh, I've been debunking these guys for years, while sprouting the same inaccurate information as always, really isn't a good look for you.
You know, people have pointed this out to me. Like, when was the last time you have ever heard a Steam Deck user actually playing Steam games on Steam Deck?
And this is relevant how exactly? Like, there are way more games on the Steam Deck than the Switch, so yeah, obviously not as many people are gonna play Steam games, because obviously they can play basically any game from any generation. And this is a luxury that you don't have access to on the Switch, so how is it a W at all?
You know, it's always just like, oh, I'm pirating some old Nintendo game, and it's just like...
No, we are emulating old Nintendo games, and Nintendo themselves have come out and said that emulation is legal. Please find a new argument.
Just own a Switch. It just...
Older Nintendo games are not available on the Switch, and your solution to that is just buy a Switch. You're not very bright, are you?
It serves functionally no purpose, other than to try and harass Nintendo fans.
You do realize that it's not just Nintendo games being emulated, right? Like, PlayStation and Xbox games are also being emulated, but funnily enough, you're not going to talk about those. And also, no, the purpose of the device isn't to harass Nintendo people, you fucking idiot. The purpose of the device is that it's a handheld piece of gaming technology that allows you to play your games on the go, for a much more affordable price than what PC rigs and what laptops would offer you.
All that's happened over the past several months is that, like, people have become aware, general audiences have become aware of the stereotype and are now clowning on them for it.
I mean, the general audience doesn't care because they have better things to do with their life than take part in console wars. But also, you're clowning on people because they are offering an alternative to the Nintendo hardware, and in many ways, a better alternative to the Nintendo hardware. Also, hilariously enough, oh, Steam Deck guys are playing the victim. Well, if you guys are openly harassing people and insulting them, then yeah, they are victims in this scenario. How are you not understanding this?
Valve fanboys, the steampunks, they are getting defensive. They don't like the fact that Nintendo fans are beginning to clown on PC gaming.
What's that? People don't like being insulted for the hobby that they participate in? Damn, Steam guys. Those assholes, am I right?
You know, after decades of being told that PC gaming is superior and that we have all the best games, that we can just pirate everything for free, you know...
We do have the best hardware, we do have all of the games, and we can emulate any game we like. That is not a lie, that is just a truth you refuse to accept. And if you refuse to accept the truth, then you are coping. End of story.
People are beginning to step up and start condemning you for your actions.
What actions? Like, genuinely, what did the PC gamers do in this scenario, other than point out a device that is potentially better for Nintendo gamers than the current Nintendo hardware?
You know, people are beginning to realize that emulation is illegal.
Well, that's funny because Nintendo realized that emulation is legal earlier this year.
You know, people are beginning to realize that modding hardware is illegal.
It's illegal in your eyes to mod a device that you already paid for? Damn, you really hate the idea of people owning the shit that they bought. Fucking corporate shill.
And, you know, the age-old cope is that, like, well, Nintendo can't do shit. You know, that's,
Well, now that Nintendo have acknowledged that emulation emulation is legal, yeah, they really can't do shit to like 99% of emulators. Like, they very much can take action against people committing piracy, and I hope that they do so, but that's not what emulation is, as Nintendo themselves acknowledge.
That's becoming less and less true every day.
To fanboys like you, perhaps, but to the rest of us, it never stopped being true.
You know, as they crack down on, like, you know, plagiarized projects like Power World.
Oh my fucking god, you're still mad about Power World. You're still fucking mad about Power World. Nintendo makes a shit Pokemon game and people don't like it. People hate the fact that Scarlet and Violet released in a dogshit state and it was buggy as fuck. People hated that, and another company was like, well, hold on, we're gonna make a game that's similar to Pokemon, but also very different to Pokemon. It was relatively successful, and Nintendo dudes fucking hate it. You hate the fact that a company dared to do something that Nintendo tried doing. Like, you are seriously one of the most pathetic individuals on this platform. Like, Elden Ring lives rent-free in your head. Baldur's Gate 3 lives rent-free in your head. Fucking Power World lives rent-free in your head. The Steam Deck lives rent-free in your head. And you're so stupid that in your video title you're like, oh, PC gamers act like the victims in this situation, whilst you openly mock and belittle them at any chance you get, and basically call them pedophiles. Like, calling someone a clopper, you may as well imply that they are pedophilic. I hope you improve as a person. You're not going to. You've been doing this whole song and dance bullshit for the last few years, but I hope for your safety and the people around you that you improve as a person. I'm the Gaming Rift, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one.